How do you, sorry.
Hello, everybody. Jamie was just about to ask me a question and realized, oh crap, we're live.
Sorry.
Okay.
And it was an exhilarating question too.
Do you want to just go ahead and ask it and that's how we open or no?
I was going to ask you how you get blue light glasses that don't reflect your screen.
I don't know. I have no idea. So we already have 34 people on here, so we better start talking about something people care about other than ourselves. Hello, everybody. This is Tony Shoup, Karen Taylor, and Jamie Sheffield from Audit The Vote PA. I know it's been a while since we jumped on my YouTube channel and gave everybody an update, and we have learned a ton. We have a big list of things we want to cover. And so that's the plan, is to go through, especially since the last election we had, which was, 2 weeks ago, the last municipal election. Oh my gosh, have we learned a ton about our election process and really what we can do moving forward to what I call stop the bleeding. We know they're cheating. We know they're stealing votes. We have a really good idea of how they're doing it. Now we have to figure out, until we can get rid of the no excuse mail-in ballots that Act 77 brought us, and until we can get rid of the machines, how do we stop the bleeding? How do we keep the cheat to a minimum so that we can actually get some traction, move forward, and get some good quality conservative people with integrity elected into our government so we can drain the Pennsylvania swamp? So why don't you ladies say hello while I get to our list, and we'll see where we're going to start.
Hello.
Hello.
Not quite as talkative as I am, clearly. We also have a special guest for you guys tonight, which is going to be kind of mind-boggling. We have a whistleblower that you aren't going to see faces or names, but this person is going to come on and share some stuff that was experienced in the municipal election from 2 weeks ago that was definitely not on the up and up, and that's going to be really cool. But before we get to that, let me give an update on our billboard campaign. So our billboards are live. Is everybody, I think we still have some that haven't been found yet. Don't we have a couple that haven't been found?
I actually think there's like 4 or 5.
There's quite a few. We only have 5 that have been found.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. What the heck? Do we make these things too hard to find or what?
People are just busy. We might get a few more over the weekend.
Yeah.
Sweet. I was going to pull up our billboard picture of our billboard so you guys could see it. Let me see if I can minimize my screen and pull that up. I think everybody by now knows what they look like, but in the event that they don't, let's see what I got. Billboards.
Is it going to come up on your screen?
I have to share my screen, but I didn't want to share my screen and have everybody watching me looking around on the screen. Got enough of that going on. Billboards are live. How many do we have total? Do you guys know? Because we've had a couple donated and a couple people that outside of Lamar gave us a really good deal on them.
I want to say the last time we counted, was it 18? Is that correct?
Billboards?
I think we have, hold on.
Maybe not.
I'm like, wait, I'm missing a lot then if we have 18 up somewhere.
I think we have 12.
We have that many even?
I think so.
So didn't we have 10 up? And then we had 1 extra one in Butler. And I don't know if you guys keep adding that one in. And then we have 1 in Washington County in 2 places. So we have 2 in Washington County.
Yeah, and then there's...
Okay, I didn't know if the 2 in Washington were up yet.
They are. He's had them up for like the last month and a half. I just didn't know it.
And there's another one in Allegheny County on the line between Allegheny and Westmoreland that was donated.
Yeah, so that's 5 on top of whatever we've got.
Yeah. I mean, we might be close to 18, actually. I don't know. We're finding, somebody just posted on Telegram yesterday that her and her husband donated another one, and I didn't ask where. I just said thank you. I should have asked where.
All right, so let's see if you guys can see this. There it is. What do you guys see?
Yay!
There is the billboard. Exciting stuff. It might look a little bit like that on billboards that aren't quite as rectangular. And on a couple of them, they had to change the white part to a blue just so it would stand out a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But there they are.
That's the general sense of what it'll look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Exciting stuff. So that's our billboards. They went up this week. They will be up for 4 weeks, which I think is good. It'll stay up for the holidays. I think the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is still the most traveled day in the year.
And some of them might stay up longer than that.
Yeah, I know at least the one in Delmont, Westmoreland County, and the one in Allegheny County and Elizabeth will be up for 3 months.
Yeah, Washington's will be up indefinitely.
Nice. So yeah, the way that we went with Lamar, which is the statewide biggest, I think, billboard company for a good bit of them, just because they knew the different markets. And we had an option to do static and digital. And the static ones with Lamar, I'm told, will stay up until that individual billboard itself sells again.
Right.
So we have at least two, maybe 3 statics through Lamar that'll end up staying up. And yes, we know that Corman is Jake the Snake for real. And we are still in the process of getting billboards for Jake Corman so that his donors decide that he is a unwise investment for them for the upcoming gubernatorial race, which I've heard mixed things now. I've heard that Corman announced locally, and then I've heard people say he didn't announce. I know he was supposed to have a big hoopla on Thursday. It got canceled because he supposedly has COVID. That's kind of convenient timing. Have you guys heard anything on that?
No, I just heard that he's vaccinated and got tested positive on Wednesday. So
got it. Anyone else hear anything on the him announcing for governor?
I did reach out after you had said.
Did we lose her?
You hear?
I think I'm here. I know Tony kept freezing, and so I kept going to talk and then not talk, and I didn't know who was talking, and then it caught up and she was talking. I stopped talking. I don't know what happened. Sorry. I think I don't know what I missed, but I definitely missed something.
Do we know for sure if Corman has announced that he's running for governor? We had heard.
I can't confirm that he has. Everyone I've spoken to, I reached out and asked just a few volunteers, and one can confirm that he did announce.
Yeah, I've reached out to a couple of my contacts, and everybody's saying they haven't heard an official announcement either. So
I don't know. I guess it's up in the air still.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Maureen, she says Scott Wagner put up a new Biden billboard in York on 83.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to donate my salary, but I'm going to donate yours.
Oh my gosh.
Funny.
Where are you reading that?
On the comments. Do you not see the comments on the side?
No.
I have the chat still on. Okay, I'm on the comments now.
And Tony, I'm plugged into Facebook, so I can actually see Facebook comments too.
Oh, sweet. My techies. I need help in this area. Okay. So in addition, we kind of have an announcement to make, which is really cool. In addition to the billboards, when we were meeting and strategizing with some marketing and advertising specialists prior to launching the billboards, we were suggested to do a combination of advertising and not just billboards, because apparently people don't travel as much as they used to, or at least this is what we were told. And I'm starting to see it, and I do believe they're right on this. Because of COVID, more people are working from home. There's not as much traffic. So the billboards weren't going to get us as much exposure as maybe we were originally told they were. So we actually just cut a commercial. We did that this week. We did the voiceover on, was that Wednesday or Thursday? That was Thursday. We did the voiceover on a commercial. It's going to be a quick 15-second, what they call front end and back end clip. And it's going to air in 6 different markets. And I believe our goal is to start at the week of Thanksgiving. So for any of your family that maybe is kind of either in the middle or just thinks everything was still free and fair, if they're still watching Fox News and Fox Business, they might get to catch our commercial and have their eyes opened a little bit. So that's going to be exciting.
I love the questions people keep asking, who's running? And I love that question because I don't know all the people that are running. The last I heard, there was like 13 names in the hat, and people keep dropping out and people keep adding their names in. So I don't know. I don't know. What about either of you? Do you know how many people are running?
I actually think the number has gone down.
Has it?
Yeah, 2 people have dropped out of the race.
Okay.
So I think we're around 12 because then we had another person announce they were running. So I kind of feel like we're still around 12 to 13, but it's not the same 12 to 13 probably.
Very cool. Very cool.
And it's my understanding too, probably up till the end of the year, a few more people will continue to come out.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right. So we had an election, right? We're a year into this, what I think is a sham, illegitimate presidency, but nevertheless went through the constitutional process of being certified, and it is what it is. And we're certainly not giving up on auditing the 2020 election because we feel it's really the only way to move forward is to figure out exactly how they stole it so we can fix it in order to move forward. It makes no sense to give up and quit on that. But that being said, time is ticking and time is still moving forward, whether we like it or not. And we are a year into this whole process. And so we have to start looking ahead in terms of how we're going to stop the bleeding, get good candidates in, still continue to expose the fraud so we can fix 2020. And that for us is what 2021 this past November, 2 weeks ago, was all about, is just learning, okay, how is the process supposed to work? Because I think that we can all agree, at least the three of us, that what we discovered is one of the reasons our elections got so bad is because too many people were not involved. It is everywhere I go, I hear how hard it is for people to find poll watchers, poll workers. Judge of elections positions are open all over the state, and there just weren't enough people on our side, on the conservative side of things, that were involved in their local elections, and it opened up the door for the other side to do a massive amount of cheating. So that is first and foremost. If you can get involved in the May primary, by all means, look into it. Call your county board of elections, ask them if they need poll watchers, poll workers, sign up to help at the polls. That's going to be huge, especially the mail-in ballot counting. Mail-in ballot counting happens at the county courthouse across the state. We have found, or at least at one central location. I think in the Center County area, it might not have been at the courthouse, but it was in a central location, one area. All the mail-in ballots are counted there. And I think we need the most eyes and the most poll watchers on those specifically, because that seems to be where they are trying to pull the most strings and to do the most shenanigans, is in the mail-in ballot counting. And it is going to take us a little while to be able to repeal Act 77, that portion of it, and get rid of those no excuse mail-in ballots. Do you guys want to add anything about stuff that you learned from the mail-in ballot piece of the last election?
I just want to add to what you just said with working at the polls. Even if all of the positions are filled, you can still work outside of a poll. Not as a paid official, you would just be like a poll volunteer, where you can hand out information for candidates or write-ins or anything like that. So if your positions just happen to be filled, you can also be an at-large position where, let's just say the judge of elections gets sick the night before and they don't have anyone, they call you. So even if you're just a backup, I would rather have a backup for every position and have a second round of people ready to go than not have enough. So definitely get involved. There are seats open. I don't know a county that doesn't have many seats open. And the most we've ever had filled was in this last election in November. And it was barely 50% of the capacity that we need across the state. So there are a lot of seats still available where you can help checking people in, checking people out, handing the ballots to people. There's lots going on that you can help with for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Karen,
And
anything on your end yet?
if those seats aren't filled, right, they also assign people, and then party doesn't matter at that point. It's just a body. So empty seats get filled with whoever's available, and that's not a good thing. I just wanted to add that.
I was just going to say, like, I know, for instance, in my county, they are like begging people to work the polls in any capacity. So for instance, if you're, you want to be judge of elections, but your particular precinct is full, contact your elections department in your county, because I'm sure there's other precincts that are not full that are begging people to come. So don't think just because your precinct is full doesn't mean that you can't help out.
Yep.
Totally agree. Something the other side does, which I don't necessarily like or think should be done, but they're doing it nonetheless, and it is lawful that potentially we should look at doing, is they have 2 people at the polls that are watching the poll books to see who has come in person and vote. And then they have something they call a runner. Jamie, you probably know this, a runner standing outside, and they're calling people as the day goes on that haven't come in and vote in person. They're calling them on the phone, like what they call the super voters, which are people that they know vote in every election. If they haven't been in yet, they'll call and say, hey, are you planning on coming down to vote? The polls are still open till 8 o'clock. And the other side has been doing that for a long time. I, again, argue whether or not that's necessarily legit, but everything I've looked at says that's lawful and legal. Have you guys seen this yet?
It is. It's called a relay. So you have a relay system, and it's kind of like you hand the baton off. So you have 2 people inside, and it's not necessarily that they're monitoring the poll book, but they have the list of the super voters, which is legal. That's public knowledge, just like the voter rolls. So you can get that. And so as they're checking people in, they're also keeping tabs on their super voters. This is actually used almost 100% of the time across the board and across affiliations, Tony, when they're going into the primary. Part of the campaign strategy is always to have a relay team. But for some reason, it's not utilized nearly as much in the generals by the Republicans. But the Democrats, of course, continue to use it. So it is very common. It is something that's been taking place and being utilized. I actually think we just, if it's lawful and it's legal and they're using it, we need to as well.
Agreed.
So because it's an advantage that they're not even taking advantage of, they're just utilizing. They're just doing more than them, a little bit of an upper hand. So we've got to take advantage of that as well.
Is she cutting out for you too, Karen?
So Jamie, your video will cut out and then it'll try and catch back up. And then you talk like, because it's catching back up, it's showing you're talking like a mile a minute. And so all you hear is this really quick.
That's what was happening with Tony earlier.
So yeah, that's what it's doing with you.
We'll keep going.
It's okay.
My internet connection, I know, is solid.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Says yes, it is cutting in and out. Is it just Jamie cutting in and out, or is it me too? We'll keep going regardless. We'll figure it out. So yeah, again, tons of lessons learned. I had no idea that anything like that was remotely legal, and good clarification. So you have a list of the super voters, so they're not really watching the poll book necessarily. They have a list of the super voters. They can figure out who came in person. And they also, here's another thing that we need to get our hands on before the May primary, is that the RNC gives out to all the GOP committee chairs, at least the committee chair, some others might have it, a list of everyone who has requested a mail-in ballot prior to Election Day. So we'll actually know all the people that put that request in. And obviously, since there is a cutoff date, thank God that they can't request it anymore, there should be a finite number of those. And we shouldn't, if we're seeing these random dumps, like we're going to talk about in a few minutes, like we did in Montgomery and Chester County 2 weeks ago, we're seeing these random dumps. We might be able to, in real time, at least figure out, hey, did we get them all back in yet? Are there any left? What the heck is going on? So that, again, we can stop the bleeding. So that I think is going to be valuable information. With that being said, let's talk about Montgomery and Chester County, because the May primary, I won't call it a disaster, but the people that are cheating are still going to cheat. Just because they know we're watching doesn't mean they're not going to keep trying. They just might get a little craftier in ways that they're going to do it. But we have experienced some absolute insanity in the last week. And if you're in Montgomery or Chester County, you're a little bit familiar with what's going on. I was just on the phone with some of our volunteers today from Chester County, and come to find out that due to the crazy shenanigans that went on out there, one of which being there was a ballot, one of the tabulators for the mail-in ballots was actually tearing up the ballot, physically ripping the ballot as it went into the tabulator. The people that were working those machines were, some of them, I believe, were poll workers, poll watchers that were part of the county, but others were from voter services, and they were actually employees of ES&S, which is the machine manufacturer. And at some point when they came back in and noticed that this was going on, they were taping the ripped ballots up, which apparently is a breaking the law. They're supposed to fill out a new ballot and feed the new ballot into the tabulator. but instead, and I believe it, don't quote me on this, we're still getting the specifics. I believe it was an ES&S employee, I could be wrong on that, taping up the ripped ballots and feeding them back into the machine. Just, can you guys imagine walking into a polling place and seeing them with tape? Like, what? First of all, the machines are ripping up the ballot. What? How in the world does that happen?
That's not shady.
No, but these things are great. We need to do more electronic poll books. Let's get rid of the paper. Let's go to electronic everything so we can just have them all hacked. The good news in Chester County is the GOP chair has written a letter. He has spoken out. He is calling for a full forensic audit of the November 2021 election. He has officially put his stamp of approval on that. He's even doing interviews. They're actually trying to get the word out. Their vice chair was on Chris Stegall this week. The chair is doing interviews as well. And they have asked the commissioners, the Republican commissioner out there, there's 2 Democrats, 1 Republican. The Republican commissioner for Chester County is on board fully. Apparently, there's going to take some convincing to get the Democrat commissioners on board, but at least we finally have somebody who has a position of power that is on our side and requesting a full forensic audit. And from what I understand, this guy went from last year in 2020 thinking everything was on the up and up to now on this journey with us and realizing that something is not right and this really needs looked into. So that is huge. They are going to have commissioners meetings next week. They're asking as many people as possible to show up at those. We'll be posting details on our Telegram channel and getting that out to everyone so you know where to be and when if you're able to show up. But we need to start showing up in massive amounts of numbers at these commissioner meetings to put positive pressure on them so that they'll do the right thing. That's our job right now, is to hold them accountable to following the law. Where we were at in 2020 is laws were being broken and nothing was being done about it. No one was holding anyone's feet to the fire and trying to hold them accountable. And we've got to change that moving forward. Do you guys have anything to add on Chester?
Just that you're right. The guy who is calling for the forensic audit now was actually our biggest barrier a year ago. He was single-handedly the person when Chester County reached out to us that they wanted to convince. And so it's taken a year, but having him, he's one of the most influential people in that county because he has held many, many positions of local government and he knows all of the elected officials. So that's a huge deal to have him wanting a full forensic audit now.
Yeah. So good things are happening, even if it's not happening as fast as we want it to. We're not seeing all the changes that we want to. Good things are still definitely happening, and that's just one example of them. So stay tuned on our Telegram channel for details on when and where that is. Look for that early next week. I'm going to let Karen intro what went on in Montgomery County because our special guest, who's going to kind of be hidden, is actually going to come from Montgomery County to talk about what they saw. But Karen, do you want to intro this a little bit since Montgomery County is all yours?
I can. So I actually had multiple volunteers of ours from Montgomery County that had reached out, and they reached out the next day after the primary and said something's wrong. And I just asked them to give me a little bit of background, and they're like, well, supposedly there was some printing error on our ballots and about 10,000 ballots are going to have to be recounted and adjudicated. And the Republicans, a lot of the Republicans on the school boards in Montgomery County in different precincts went to bed thinking they won. Yep. And then all of a sudden, all these mail-in ballots, over 10,000 mail-in ballots, somehow showed up. That they said
sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Was that at like 2 or 3 in the morning as
well?
So
it was like 2:30 in the morning. So apparently from what I gather, the Republican committee didn't even find out about these ballots until 2:30 in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah, Lisa. Yeah.
Now, Karen, I have a very, very important question.
Please.
Who are the commissioners in Montgomery County?
Yeah. So there's kind of like Chester County. There are 2 Democrat commissioners and there is 1 Republican commissioner. The Republican commissioner is actually Joe Gale, who has thrown his name in the hat for governor. That's one of the people that 13 or whatever people that are running for governor. And from my understanding, the day of the election was not there at all, did not show up. And then the next couple of days after that, while they were going through all these ballots that they're having to adjudicate and recreate, wasn't there as well.
And he's the only person who could advocate for the Republican Party, and he did absolutely nothing. And we know that people were reaching out to him. They were screenshotting or blind carbon copying us on the emails they were sending him.
Yeah, so we were getting copies of these emails that people were literally like, what is going on? I mean, caps, they're trying to figure out where these ballots are coming from. And funny enough, the next couple of days, the ballots went from 10,000 ballots to 23,000 ballots.
Right.
So that's not shady at all.
And that's why we need to have a list of how many mail-in ballots we should be expecting, because their names, like the poll books, their names should be getting checked off a list. And when that list is full, no more ballots can be accepted. Like we have got to, if we can't repeal it, right? Obviously, that's the best option. But if we can't repeal it, we've got to find a way to work better with it to make it work productively for us.
But I do think, forgive me for playing with the banners. That's our website right there. If you like what we do and would like to support us, we are always going to be taking donations because, as we have found out, patriotism is not free. It does cost money to do that. So if you would like to donate to us, you can do that on our website. And I'm just trying to figure out how these banners work, which is why I stuck that up there in the middle of them talking. But I will take it away now.
I do want to address 2 questions on Facebook. So, Carrie, you asked, were they all for one side? I cannot confirm they were all for one side. However, I can confirm there was a majority of the ballots that came in that were for one particular side of the aisle. And then Barb said, well, Gail told us at an event he would not allow mail-in ballots. I guess he misspoke. So from what we've learned as far as the Constitution, because Act 77 was passed, the governor is not going to be able to just say, no more mail-in ballots. It doesn't work that way. So there is some legislation that currently is on the table that I know Senator Mastriano introduced to try and get rid of the mail-in ballot, the no excuse mail-in ballots. He's calling for co-sponsors right now. So I don't know the exact bill right now, what it is. I can find out that for you guys. But here's the thing. You can say all you want. One thing. You can talk about, well, there's this big issue and blah, blah, blah. But in my opinion, at this point in time, after what all we've seen the past year, I don't want you to speak anymore. Do something. And so I don't care how much you actually say that you don't like something or you don't want something. If you're not going to act, to me, it doesn't matter. Yeah. We've had enough of this. I don't want to hear this anymore. Get off your rusty dusty and do something.
Yeah, so that's not a good sign. If a county commissioner is nowhere to be found and there's shenanigans you should at least be on an election. Don't you think they should be hanging around their county? I mean,
has he come around yet, right? Like, he's not come out and made a statement. Nobody from his county has heard back from him. It's kind of, I just asked the question, why in the world, if you can't handle your county on election day, would I give you the state for how many years? Like, why would we do that? We wouldn't. Let's not do that, guys.
I've seen a couple articles from his, I guess they had a county commissioners meeting either Wednesday or Thursday of last week. And I guess he spoke about the mail-in ballot issue. And I saw like a couple news, like online news articles about it. But I don't know if he's actually been there in person advocating for these people and what's going on. I don't know. Thank you, awesome. Tessie. SB 884. That's what it is. SB 884.
And several people are asking, are we talking about Joe Gale? And yes, we're talking about Joe Gale. Joe Gale, Sean Gale's brother, they're running for Senate and governor. And Joe Gale is currently the only Republican commissioner in Montgomery County. which is outside of Philadelphia. So yes, we are talking about that same Joe Gale.
Yep. SB 884. So eventually, too, we'll probably put calls to action out to call your legislators and get them to sign on, because it will get rid of a lot of the big things in Act 77 that were problems, like the no excuse mail-in ballots. It will also push the deadline back to when ballots can be received to the Friday before the election at 5 p.m. as opposed to 8 p.m. on election day. And so that's a huge gap of time. Prior to Act 77, if you didn't have your absentee ballot in by the Friday before the election, that was it. So really, where they're pulling these things out left and right from nowhere, that was off the table. So we have to there is a good thing in this bill, but until that gets out there, and the way that Senator Mastriano wrote it, it was really our only option, is to get it on the ballot for us to vote on as a referendum, just like the emergency declaration questions were last May. It's not even going to be on the ballot until May of 2023, because it has to pass 2 consecutive legislative sessions before we can even get it on the ballot. So I know it stinks, but that's why, again, guys, we're talking about how do we stop the bleeding until we can at least get that on the ballot and get it repealed.
Yes.
And just to be clear, there is a reason that you don't want to repeal Act 77 in its entirety. And that's because there's actually some good things in Act 77, like poll workers and judge of elections and judge of inspections all got like a 30% raise. And like, I'm not saying that the majority of the bill was good, but to repeal it all just wouldn't make sense. We would actually probably come under more attack to repeal the whole thing than just to repeal parts of it. So if anybody's wondering, maybe why are we not just repealing the whole thing? It's because there are some things in Act 77 that were beneficial. None of them really had to do with the election itself, but that payment and things like that, some of those did improve. So you got to repeal what you can and what hurt us, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm going to bring in our special guest, and I'm going to let Karen run with this because she's been working with our special guest. And so camera's going to stay off. She's not going to say her name, he or she. I guess we'll be able to tell it's a girl. So that's that. But, or maybe, you pick the unicorn gender, since aren't there like a multitude of genders that you could be nowadays?
Oh boy.
Well, so, I will say our concerned citizen, our whistleblower, is actually somebody from Montgomery County. And I wanted them to talk a little bit about kind of firsthand what shenanigans, we'll say, that we saw in Montgomery County. And I love that it's somebody who's experienced it, who's been there. And instead of us giving the secondhand what we heard, I would love for them to chat a little bit about kind of timeline-wise of after the polls closed, what happened. So if you don't mind just chatting a little bit about that.
And Jamie, we can't see. Sorry, Jamie, we can't see you anymore. I don't know if you. Yeah, Jamie went dark.
Did everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you, ladies, for having me on, and thank you for everything that you do. Because of you, I've really paid more attention to the election going into it, and I'm going to even start from election night. Because of the Telegram channel, I paid attention to the Wi-Fi that was accessible going into the polls, and I found that there was 4 Wi-Fis in the parking lot, 5 Wi-Fis when I went inside the building, and a 6th one appeared after my ballot was cast. So we had that going on. So it made my spidey senses were going crazy for the rest of the week. I knew, especially from 2020, what went on. And so flash forward to Wednesday morning, I started getting notifications that there needed help down at the county to count the ballots, the mail-ins and the absentees. And when I called the Montgomery County Republican Committee, they told me and several other people that they didn't need any assistance. So I said, okay, well, I'm available and we'll check back again. So Wednesday night, Scott McKay happened to be in Pottstown, and we went to see Scott McKay, and it was crazy. Like an Amber Alert, all of our phones were going off at the same time, an urgent request that they needed to have ballot counters down at the county and to be there at 8 a.m. the next morning. So I showed up at 8 a.m. and there was only two, me and another person who were Republicans. There was two voter services people at the desk, and they didn't know what was going on either. And so they took us in. It took about an hour and a half before they took us into what I think is going to be the counting room. And just so you guys know, this was not at the county courthouse.
Okay.
This was at another building that used to be a hospital, and now it's being used by county. And it's nowhere near the courthouse, by the way. And so we went down this like crazy hallway, like practically to the morgue is where they took us for this counting event that we think we're going to. I'm like getting scared walking through the building. Anyway, so we go inside and they proceed to tell us that we're going to be recreating ballots. I think we're counting ballots.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you mean adjudicating? Because I learned that word from 2020 watching all the audits. And so they hand us a paper that says guidelines for ballot recreation. And they created a bipartisan pair, sat us down at the handicap machines that are like the big iPad. One of the partners was to read the ballot while the other programmed it into the machine. And then the ballot printed out with a QR code that looks nothing like the original ballot. And so...
Can I stop you for 1 second before you continue?
Sure.
So when you came in the room and they said that you said that there was a pair, that pair was supposedly one Democrat and one Republican, right?
Right. Yes.
How did they confirm that?
Oh, no confirmation, no security. You could have said I'm Mickey Mouse with the Mouseketeers, and you were solid. So I happen to know that people went down over the course of the weekend dressed in impersonating Democrats so that they could sit at, just see what was going to happen. There was no ID, nothing, no security.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, you're welcome. So incidentally, at 11:45 on Thursday, suddenly we were told everyone has to leave the room. And I said, why? And they said, well, we have to move things around. And so for absolutely no reason given, we were asked to leave. And I have to admit, I lost my faculties for a few minutes, and I should have looked behind me to see what they were going to do next. But it was like, there was so much going on. And I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was leaving because I was concerned, Anyway, so that happened. No reason. Other people were told that a silent alarm went off, but we were not asked to leave the building, just the room. So I was there till 3:00 both days. And that particular day asked how many ballots needed to be counted. And like you said earlier, 10,000. The next day in the same capacity, I said, how many ballots to another person? And she says 23,000. So, it was just the level of just no security. Why are we recreating thousands of ballots? And some of them didn't even, my Democratic partner said, this one looks perfect. Why are we doing this? I don't know. I actually don't know.
So you weren't given a reason or
Correct.
anything as to why these ballots had to be duplicated?
Correct.
Okay.
They were just in a pile according to municipality, and you had a number to enter into the computer and say it was Norristown and this number, and whether it was an absentee or a mail-in. And there was absolutely, some of them look perfect. Or, you know what? Those little circles that we're filling in, and so many filled them in with Sharpies, they bled through. Many of those were adjudicated. So it led me to wonder, they do say on these particular ballots that they were either absentee or they were mail-in, but I didn't think to look at the ballots that we did at the polls to see if they said anything on top of them. What if they took those and were adjudicating them? I mean, I was just blown away, and it just made way more doubt in our process. And I'm not the only one. People were coming in and out and just were blown away by it over the 2 days that I was there.
Was there someone there who was officially in charge that you knew of?
Yes.
Okay.
And so voter services, they all had tags on from Montgomery County Voter Services. And I was taking names. So, yeah, there was one fellow who was in charge for the 2 days that I was there. And more voter services people came in. What I noticed was that multiple county services people were acting together, and I doubt that they were bipartisan pairs at the computers adjudicating.
Okay.
And when you recreated the ballot, where were you putting the old ballot and where were you putting the new ballot, and then what happened to them?
So there was a black box, there was a black box and a blue box. The originals went in the black box when we were finished, and we put a code on them. So whatever number, if you were sitting at number 10 computer, and this was number 1 ballot, and then you would put a R for recreate or O for original, and they went into a blue and a black box. Once you were done, you kind of raised your hand. I felt like I was in a factory. Raise your hand, and they come and get them. You didn't see them go to the next place. We have no idea if they were scanned. I don't know if when we entered them into the system, were they counted that way? We have no idea. And even my bipartisan partner was not sure what was going on. And I will say, too, what was kind of refreshing about my partner is, you know, we have this division going on between the parties and the people. And we agreed on so many things as we were sitting there chatting about retention and the fact that many people don't even know how to vote. And so once we get down the road, I mean, you know, I'm in your class now, the Constitution class. People need education, and I will just venture to say that probably 85% of the people out there have no idea what is going on in any capacity. It's really a shame.
That's the beauty of 2020, though, is it woke a lot of us up. And yes, there's still a lot that still don't know. They're like walking around in the twilight zone, but it did wake a lot of people up. If Donald Trump did one thing right, man, did he show us how far gone and how much we've lost our country. So
Yeah,
we
for
really appreciate you for getting involved and getting in the fight and doing all this. At one point in time, do I remember Karen telling me that you were kicked out of the room at some point?
That was the 11:45 on Thursday when they just sweeping everybody. It was like we were done the test. Everybody stop and step out of the room. And I was like, why? What's going on? And they were just kind of like, we just have to move things around. We have to move ballots around. And everybody's like, well, and then I started really noticing that there was metal closets on wheels that were being wheeled in, and there was tape diagonally across it. And I'm going to say it was, you know, about probably 7 feet tall and maybe 4 feet wide with metal doors. And inside there, I think, were new ballots. And so there was just like a lot of shuffling. It was like the shell game, like everything was being moved around constantly.
But they kept you in the dark the whole time as to what was actually going on.
Well, and that's the thing. Earlier, you guys were saying, you know, they'll get a little bit more crafty. They're just acting like nothing. So they didn't care that people were taking pictures. People were videoing. One lady came in with a mask and then a shield, like she was posing as a Democrat. I mean, it was a shit show. I mean, that is what they said about it. That is what they said about Montgomery County. And we lived up to our name that day in flying colors.
Wow.
Has there been any follow-up whatsoever from county officials, or for that matter, Joe Gale, to kind of shed light on what happened, why it happened, how it happened, and what the outcome of that has been?
So as far as I know, even today, we still don't have true tallies. And it's alarming at any time when any of these races are called at midnight on election day, and we still have at least 23,000 that weren't counted, supposedly. Possibly 76,000. I have heard so many different numbers that we don't even know what's going on. I mean, there's at least 78,000 mail-in or absentee ballots. Nobody knows the true number. And so for anybody out there that thinks your vote counted, it absolutely did not count, because we don't even know. We have no idea what the true numbers are.
Wow. So yeah, the Sharpies, someone's saying something in the comments about the Sharpies. So yeah. Dominion machines, this is something we also discovered. There's 13 counties in Pennsylvania. Montgomery is one, York is another, that still have Dominion machines. And it appears as though all the Dominion machines come with Sharpies. It's like a package deal. It doesn't look like the other counties that have ES&S or Hart Civic or ClearVote. None of them seem to be having Sharpies across the board the way that Dominion is. We also this week filled out some right to know requests requesting adjudication rates in these counties. And so far, we've only heard back from a couple of them, but so far they're telling us that they don't keep track of that. They don't have that information. They couldn't give us adjudication rates. And so that in and of itself too is kind of like, what?
Now, I will say, sorry, I was talking with someone this week about that, and they said the reason, there is a plausible reason for that, which I'm going to look into on Monday. They might be telling us records don't exist because they're only on the machines. It might just be a digital trail, and so they're not allowed to pull it off the machine, so they can't produce a physical copy of it. So the records might be available via a subpoena, but they might not be available via the Right to Know Act, because you can only ask for documentation. And so that was something that I was talking with someone about. And so that we might still have an avenue to see if that information is available.
So the county commissioners would be able to get us that then, because
Yes.
they're the ones. Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
So
cool.
If it's on the machine.
When I actually volunteered during the presidential election as in a capacity at the polls, and we were only given Sharpies, and we were concerned at the time. I will also say that my entire voting district, I had 2 polling places at the place that I volunteered. It was my first time ever. No one in that 2 polling place precinct had ever had experience in polls. We were barely trained, and all they did was give us thousands of Sharpies to give out. And after the fact, once I started seeing all the audits, my hair just stood up on my neck. So there's just so much. It's overwhelming, and I'm glad you guys are working on it, and I appreciate all your support in Montgomery County.
Absolutely. And as you can tell, has anybody mentioned any candidates or who won or lost or any of the races or anything? No, because we don't care.
No.
This isn't about Donald Trump or Joe Biden or any individual candidate, or it's not even about a side. It's let's make sure that who we, the people, picked are the ones that are in there representing us when they're sworn into office, period.
And that goes for the local races too. Like, we're not doing this because we want to get more Republicans elected. We're doing it because it's just what needs done. It's how we get to the truth. I don't only want elections to be free and fair for Republicans. I think elections should be free and fair for every single individual legally allowed to and qualified to vote. And so, and what a lot of people don't understand is when they were changing votes, they had to take Democrats' votes as well, because there were so many Democrats voting Republican, but they haven't changed their status yet. And so they took Democrats' votes as well. So this is not a partisan issue at all.
No.
There are a large percentage of people in every party that believes this is an issue, not just our party, I guess, but just to say this is not about anything other than really making it so that these elections can run smoothly, we can trust them, and we can elect who we fairly elect, whoever that is.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why I said that the night election night, these people went to bed thinking they won their races. And then here we are, over a week out from our election, and they still don't know who's won these positions.
They don't even know how many ballots there really are.
No. And when you
10,
don't know
12,
the amount of ballots,
then
you don't
20.
know.
No.
Exactly. You don't know who's won. And that's the problem, where here we are, almost a week and a half later, that we still have positions, school board and other, that don't know who is duly elected. It's not about what side it is. It's who the people elected to be in these positions. We don't know.
Now, Karen, to play devil's advocate with you, I called Beaver County's Bureau of Elections the other day to check on that position. And our results are still not certified or official either. They said it would take about another week to finish counting everything. So even in a county where there were supposedly no issues, we have not no issues. I mean, like, we were not given Sharpies. Our machines were not doing anything crazy, right? We didn't have any recounts. And our election, even in this county, still isn't even finished. I just don't know how that's possible.
So what are they? And that's my question is, before 2020, now granted, from what we're finding out, there's been, fraud in elections for 40, 50 years, probably minimum. I just think that 2020, there was so much that it was just undeniably obvious. And that's why we are where we are now. But my question is, previously, we've never had a week later in any county that we didn't know who was elected.
Right.
And here we are in multiple counties in Pennsylvania, whether there was massive, obvious issues or not, that we still don't know who won some of these races. And in my opinion, that is unacceptable.
And what's interesting that I found, at least in our county, Tony, was that when I go and look at the results, several precincts had theirs counted, finished, and official for before midnight that night on election night, right? So what's going on in some of these precincts? Are they short people? Are they doing something nefarious? Are they just not doing anything? Are they waiting on something? We have no consistency even on the precincts within a county, because they're all doing things at a different rate, at a different location, with different people. And I feel like it's the oversight that's lacking on all of this. None of this is being surveilled. None of this is being recorded. We don't know what's happening anywhere under any circumstances right now.
Yeah. And as we get out, the good news is, though, we have so much data now from not just 2020, but the others, that we can kind of pinpoint the precincts that there are the most issues in, so that when it comes time for May and we get all our volunteers together, we can literally hone in, especially, and make sure there's extra coverage on the precincts that we think nefarious things are going on, just to have more eyes on it. The mail-in ballot counting, especially. So that's good news as well on this whole thing.
I was going to say, and let's do a little pick-me-up, because that was a little rough. Let's be honest. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that's not going our way. There's a lot of bad things happening. There's a lot of questionable things. But every time they do something and we catch them, we learn their way. And I know we wish we could catch it ahead of time, but to catch them in real time and then have them lie about it is just as good, if not better.
Yep.
And to be able to put out this information and expose it statewide, and to have people supporting us across the country getting this information out, and then saying, oh, wait, I'm going to look into my precinct, my county, my state, and then get something started there. Yes, it's happening slowly, but it's happening. It's happening. States are still working. We have grassroots teams in multiple states now canvassing. It is coming about. It has been a little slow. Please don't lose hope, though. It doesn't matter how many elections we have to get through where we know they're cheating. We will get through every one of them, but we will learn from every one of them, and we will make the next one better.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's getting better.
So Carrie asked if on Facebook, are some precincts larger? Could that be the issue? Well, yes, there are some precincts, but that still shouldn't be the issue as far as why they're not fully counted and what's going on. And
it should be the same process.
Exactly. And Jamie, I love what you say about inspiring other people, because honestly, that was one of our goals from the beginning. Was we've always said this wasn't about us. And yes, we are in Pennsylvania, but if we can help people across the country, that was one thing we loved about the symposium that we went to, is we developed this network of patriots across the entire country. And I love that we still are in communication with a lot of them. We still collaborate with a lot of them. And we are doing this to make sure that across the country, people are inspired enough to say, you know what, we're not going to let this happen anymore. Enough is enough. And we're going to start doing this in our state. And the cool thing is that the more and more that happens, the less and less these people, whoever it is, which we will figure out who's doing this mess, but whoever it is, the less and less they're going to be able to do this, because the more people that are going to have eyes on it, the more people that are going to be paying attention. And at the end of the day, we know that that's going to protect our elections. So like Jamie said, yes, it's frustrating now, but we also, not only are we going to look behind, we're going to look in the future too. So we're kind of doing a full circle, making sure what happened in the past isn't going to happen in the future.
And every time we learn something new in one county, we're going to share it with everyone. So you can keep an eye out for this in every county.
Absolutely.
Now, I will say one thing we've learned is this is not a one size fits all approach. You know, there's 2 or 3 major things in some counties and then 1 or 2 others, but it's different issues in different counties. Some people have big issues with mail-in ballots. Some people have major issue with ghost voters. Some people have major issues with dead voters and underage voters. So we're running into a lot of different things in different counties, but it's still probably the best idea to be looking for all of these issues in every county, because they're probably going to have to switch it up now, because we've exposed a lot and we're going to keep exposing more. And the more people we have that know and that are educated, really the harder it's going to get for them to be able to do this.
Agreed.
What are you laughing at, Marion?
Anything else our concerned citizen would like to add?
I just want to thank everybody. It is definitely really important that if you see something that you have to get involved. One of the things that I was concerned about in the time period that anyone was in the setting of that recount / recreation, we were told later by for anybody that was trying to report it outside, we were told that we should find a judge. There was no representation in that area that you can talk to. And I just really am grateful for you guys that you answered the call, because I know that you are like a beacon in our state and in our country right now, because you guys have been doing it. So I really appreciate that. And I'm just grateful to be here. And I ask God to bless us all. God bless America. And I do know that God wins. And we've really learned and we've really come a long way. So we'll get there. I have faith in the system, and I know we're coming for you. Whoever's doing this, we're coming. So,
right.
Yep. So
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being willing to come forward and just to share and expose what's going on.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I also want to tell everybody out there, we are the silent majority for a reason. And many, many patriots are about to stand up in our silence, and they're just not even going to know what hits them. So thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thanks. All right.
Tony,
So
you are over there playing again.
I know, I'm playing with this stuff. I'm figuring it out.
Stuff going across
I
the
know.
street.
Don't mind the stuff moving across the body.
Oh man, that's so good. That was so good.
Somebody asked about the Chester County. So yeah, that's Montgomery County. Now here's one thing that you don't have to leave. So if you volunteer at the polls, this is something to note. And again, this is a learning curve, okay? They come in and tell you that you have to get out because we got to rearrange some stuff. You sit your butt down and make them call the cops to get you out. Yes. They don't have the authority to kick you out. That's what I wanted to ask her. I forgot. Is it, who was it? Was it Voter Services or was it ES&S? Who was telling them they had to leave?
I think it was Voter Services. It was the people in the room that were kind of running things that told everybody to get up and get out.
The biggest thing I think we've learned, all three of us, and probably every other person on here, is they expect us not to know better.
Yep.
They expect us to be ignorant to their ways and to take their word for whatever they say or ask or whatever. We can't do that anymore. If it takes sitting there until they call the police and the police have to escort you out, then let the police escort you out. Cause a scene. It doesn't matter. Waste 30 to 45 minutes of their time so they have less time to do what they were going to do. What's it matter? We have to start standing up for what's right and putting our foot down and being present when these things happen.
Yep. So somebody else about Chester County, if you want to read I know we're coming up on an hour here and I know people's attention spans, if they're like mine, it's not very long. So I want to get through everything else that we want to get through. This website down there, you probably can't really cut and paste it, but that will give you all of the information. Actually, if you just go to republicanccc.com, that's the Republican Committee of Chester County. It's right on there. You can click and read they have everything spelled out, all the issues. It's insane. I guess there's a ballot. There's some machine that opens the mail-in ballots. I didn't know this because I haven't done this myself. The machine that was opening them was what was ripping them.
Oh my
God. That's where they were having the issue. And then they were taping them, which is not the procedure at all, to fix it. And then that's why the ones that were being fed through the scanners after they were taped were getting stuck because the tape was getting them stuck. So more details there. Go check that out and read it. I know those guys could use any help that you are willing to give them, whether it's volunteer or donating or anything like that. So
here's another thing I want to pop in real quick. If you are one of those people that are in there counting the mail-in ballots or doing this adjudication or whatever, get names of all the people, the supervisors that are in there. Take names, look at what you're doing. If there's any situation, let's say an alarm goes off or something and you do have to leave, write down the number of the ballot that you're at. Take as much information as you can. Because at the end of the day, when you're calling the elections department or when you're calling whatever to make a claim, the more information you have, the better it's going to be. And like we said, we're learning as we go. The more information you have, the better off going forward that we're going to be, and we're going to be able to catch these people. So,
and we can't do this.
Everything.
We're three people and we're doing 1,000 different things. So that's why we're putting this out there for you guys. So you have this information so you can go fill all those seats. And I'm sure, I feel like we are volunteering, all three of us in our counties at the polls now. And like, we just have to get eyes and ears on these. Absolutely. So Tony, what's next?
That being said, let's go into what we experienced with these intermittent Wi-Fi connections on election day. We had a volunteer who went to a demonstration the week prior to the election. So I guess if you do volunteer to be a poll watcher or worker, you'll get to see the machines demonstrated a week before the election. She thought to turn on her Wi-Fi before the machines did anything and to keep an eye on it. And she found the CBCI network pop up when they were doing something with the machines. I can't remember if it was specifically scanning ballots, but it popped up and it went away. So when I went to vote at my precinct on election day, after I filled out my ballot, I did the same thing. I pulled up my Wi-Fi settings in my network. I looked and it saw that it just said church and school, and that was it. I scanned my ballot into the tabulator. Thing pops up and said your ballot is accepted. And within a few seconds of it saying that, I noticed on my phone a Wi-Fi network pop up that said CBCI dash. I think mine said 6CE3. It's a combination of just letters and numbers, and then a dash 2.4. And it was only there for less than a minute, and I can prove that with the screenshots that I have because it was 5:58 p.m. I have actually filled out my own affidavit for this so that we have it. 5:58 p.m. I have a screenshot where it just says church and school because that's what happened after the network left. And then I have a screenshot at that exact same time with the CBCI network appearing. So my mom came to the precinct with me. I helped her scan her ballot because she's in a wheelchair. She couldn't lift up and do it herself. And I was still watching my phone. And sure enough, after her ballot scanned, exact same thing. CBCI network popping up within seconds of it getting into the scanner, intermittent, less than a minute, it's gone. 2 neighbor friends were right behind me. I watched them do it. They loaded their ballots in one after the other much quicker. There was a little bit of a gap between me and my mom. They loaded them in one after the other. 2 of those networks happened to pop up on my phone after they put theirs in. So I'm, of course, all jacked up then when I leave there. Like, yes, I found something. I get overly excited really easily. So I go running over to another precinct when I left because I was handing out cards for a write-in candidate. This happens to be in Allegheny County. I live very close to the border of Butler, Beaver, and Allegheny. So I voted in Beaver. I went across the way to Allegheny. Both counties have ES&S machines. I stood outside and handed out cards, and I did the same thing. I just kept an eye on my Wi-Fi network on my phone for the whole hour I was there. And it was the same trend, only this time since I was outside the polling location, I noticed it was happening as voters were coming out. So I would imagine they were going in, filling out their ballot, putting it through the scanner, and then when the scanner said it was done, they walked right out, and that's when the CBCI network was popping up on my phone. And I watched this for an hour. It was actually kind of fun because I was standing outside with other Republicans that didn't know who I was and had heard of Audit the Vote PA, but didn't know a whole lot about us. I was standing outside talking to them, explaining to them what I think I was finding. Like, look at this intermittent Wi-Fi network popping up. And at first they were like, nah. And then it was like a game because we'd watch people come out, look at my phone, there it is. And they were like, oh, this is crazy.
This is what we do in our spare time for fun.
Yeah. I'm not kidding about 007. We're playing detective now, whatever it takes. That's legal and lawful and fair. So we had shared this idea on our Telegram channel, and all throughout the day, people were sending us the same type of story with screenshots of what they had seen. And now here we are 2 weeks after the election with at least 10 different counties that had a very similar experience. So all in all, what does that prove? We're still not sure. Mm-hmm. It looks an awful lot like these machines are communicating something somewhere after a ballot is scanned into it. I don't know that they're connected to the internet per se, but they're definitely connected to one another. And if you get on their website and start reading the instruction manual or anything about the machines, go on ES&S and get on their website. It will say that they have an intranet connection that is super secure, but that their equipment can connect to itself. And that's probably what we were seeing pop up. But the challenge with that is if it's going to pop up on a phone Wi-Fi network, then anybody that's outside of that can hack cybersecurity. They can get in and they can hack that network. And according to Mike Lindell on the Frank Speech website, every single county in Pennsylvania was accessed at some point by an outside IP address. And it even has the access IP address of what they actually got into on the Frank Speech website. So more to come on that.
Was this happening, you think, for every single ballot that was scanned, or was it kind of a little more random?
That is a great question because some people said that it didn't happen when they were scanning every single ballot. I only watched the 4 that I was there going into the scanner. We don't know. That's a great question. Okay. So again, it's raised more questions than answers. And again, we're not sure that it's even anything yet. But if nothing else, what that says to me is, hey, county commissioners, you need to look at these machines. That's
where is that connection coming from? So, Tony, something you didn't mention that I want to make clear, when she said 10 counties approximately had the same thing happen, clarify this, Tony. When you say the same thing, how similar is it?
The same thing, meaning a CBCI dash random 4 numbers .2.4, or in some cases 5, popped up intermittently on their phones.
Yeah, it was the same numbers of the same network, essentially, not just some random Wi-Fi. It was the exact same one across the state.
And CBCI, we have come to find out, stands for Comcast Business Class Internet. But if you have VPNs, and I don't quite understand the cybersecurity world as well as a lot of experts do, I guess you can hide certain Wi-Fi networks and connections and name them something else. And there's just a lot more stuff that needs dug into and investigated because there's definitely, they're connected to something. Somehow they're giving off signals that phones are detecting. And therefore, we really need to look into this. That was, if nothing else, we proved that for sure. We're hitting this from every possible angle. The canvassing results are finding phantom votes. The mail-in, now we have witnesses that are in the precincts, seeing what's going on, people being kicked out, things shuffling around. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to not look further into the 2020 election. Our voter rolls, we'll get to that. Our voter rolls are without a doubt being manipulated by some third-party source. We're just now starting to look and graph how the voter rolls have changed over the last 10 years. It will blow your mind. I have a couple graphs I'm going to pull up here. But first, I want Jamie to talk about what she found. She's built a team of researchers through Audit the Vote PA, and she has them looking at stuff. And I would like you to talk a little bit about what you found this week with your research team.
Okay. So it's a little bit complicated in that the people involved, let's just say they're all dirty, they're all on the left, and they're all very well educated and very well funded. And we know the University of Pittsburgh is obviously been tied to some not so good things recently that have put them in the spotlight. Well, what we're finding out is that the University of Pittsburgh also has this election integrity, save our democracy commission, if you want to call it, that they've put together to basically say that Republicans are trying to destroy our democracy and that the only way to promote election integrity is to let everyone vote in every election all the time. And my favorite part is they are having some sort of a webinar that was sent to me, and they have a panel of, let's call them qualified panelists with a lot of experience. And so
I'm going to pull this up so they could see it.
My pleasure to tell you that the head panelist is Kathy Bookvar, our former Secretary of State.
Because that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Why is that important, Jamie? Why would that be important?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, she might have possibly given away access to our voter rolls, which is why we're in the boat we're in, to over 100 organizations that we can.
Might have.
She might have. Yeah. I mean, she's in hiding, so we can't ask her, but I'd love to ask her at this event. Yes. We're all registered to attend it, just so you know.
Can you guys see this on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So it has popped up. Institute for Cyber Law Policy and Security. Oh, great. Check this out. Panelists. Kathy Bookvar, Vice President of Election Operations, Center for Internet Security. Huh? So is this saying she's working at Pitt now?
I have no idea. All I know is you don't get a job like that quick without being tied into all the wrong people.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Well,
so
and even Liz Howard, look at Liz Howard, this Senior Counsel Democracy Program for the Brennan Center for Justice.
Yeah.
There it is.
And the Brennan Center is pretty corrupt. So
who is telling me something about Common Cause? I think Jen, I was on the phone with her today about Common Cause. I don't know who Alexa Grant is, but these people are basically all involved in the 2020 steal. And
yes. And so through some of the people on the boards or some of the top people involved in this election integrity effort, we're finding out actually have some very strong ties.
Yeah, I can't read this. I'll get heart palpitations. I'm going to stop sharing right now.
They actually, do you want me to talk about the ties to other places?
Yeah. Please do. I was reading Kathy Bookvar's resume that makes her look.
That's
like
okay. I thought maybe you were like talking over me, but so some of the people who are basically organizing that event have very strong ties to elected officials in Georgia. They have donated to their campaigns. And so one of the interesting things we know happened that Bobby Piton kind of put out there in his data that he uncovered is that Pennsylvania didn't just have names disappearing off the voter rolls, they were disappearing in groups. And so let's just say you had 75 people with the last name Brown. All 75 of them disappeared. The whole subset of that last name was disappearing off the voter rolls. Now, I made that last name up, just so you know. That's not the accurate information, just putting that out there. That was a made up name, just giving an example, in my opinion. and the interesting thing is those same subsets of last names were showing up on Georgia's voter rolls for the runoff, almost identically. So we now have that piece of information. And now we have some guys who, I'm not going to say their names just so we don't get in trouble.
Smart.
But they have very strong ties to Brad Raffensperger and have donated to his campaign. And now we have a clear Pennsylvania-Georgia connection when we already know that there was a Pennsylvania-Georgia connection.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Yep. Now I got something else to share. Hang on. This is going to
But Jamie, with that connection, even though I know you're not going to talk about their names, isn't part of that connection something's going to happen in Pennsylvania, or one of them have said that they're considering running for something in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, of course, they're all Democrats. I mean, they're using the word democracy as if it exists and is real, even though it's not in our country. So we can tell that they're liberal. And one of those guys has actually said that he plans on running for Connor Lamb's seat, which, for those of you, not in Western PA, Connor Lamb was in a very contentious race with Sean Parnell. And it's our understanding Sean Parnell was up more than what Connor Lamb could have feasibly won the race by. And somehow Sean still lost, much like Trump did Pennsylvania as a whole. So it's very speculative that Lamb has been appointed, inserted, whatever you want to say. And so Connor Lamb is now running again against Sean Parnell to prove a point for Senate, which is going to leave his seat vacant. And so I don't think the guy's name is on there.
And Connor Lamb, he's a congressman, right? A federal congressman for Pittsburgh.
It's Pittsburgh and Beaver and part of another county. But yes. And he ran as a moderate Democrat and got a lot of votes because of that. But I will give him credit. His very first vote, he voted not to appoint Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. We believe he was heavily reprimanded after that. He abstained from voting on the next two votes, and then he has voted with Nancy Pelosi on every single vote since then. And so moderate is out the window. He's a liberal. And so they've offered him a promotion to Senate and a chance to beat Sean Parnell for a second time. And
steal it from Sean Parnell.
I know. Yes, you're right. So just a lot of interesting connections. When we tell you that the Democrats are well connected, they're organized, they're orchestrated, it's on purpose. This is what we're talking about.
Yep.
This has probably been going on for years and years and years, if not decades, and we just didn't know. Yep. And now we know. And now we can watch these guys. We can watch their finances. We can attend their webinars. We can put them on the spot and ask them questions. We just have to know it's happening, and then we have to get involved.
I mean, it's like a joke. Is this a joke? Secretary Benson, the Secretary of State in Michigan, and Director Hickton spoke at length about the importance of maintaining faith and trust in American democracy, as well as what steps should be taken to continue to ensure the security of our elections.
When you think that we're a democracy, you don't even know what elections are. Like, the fact that they could say American democracy, we've never been a democracy. This is if you want to talk about a big lie, right? That we're a constitutional republic and they all use the word democracy like it exists somehow. Like, if I could correct one thing the liberals say, that would be it. That's the thing that drives me the most crazy, because you now have people who are voting, who live in this country, who believe it's a democracy, and it's not.
Well, and Jamie, we've even learned from our Constitution classes that the founding fathers actually said a pure democracy is actually going to be the demise of America. It's not a good thing.
And they didn't want us to be a republic either, right? So I'm not going to go into detail, but like a democracy is bad for certain reasons because 51%, so you discount 49%. But then a republic is equally as tyrannical because the government still has too much say and control and not enough of the people are heard. So when our forefathers made us a constitutional republic, they actually provided the republic so the people would be first, but the Constitution to tell them what the rights of the government would be so that the government would be limited. And we have gotten so far away from all of that. It's a joke to me. It's almost actually offensive to call us a democracy because it's so untrue.
But it's pure propaganda, right? They're
It
brainwashing because they're
Exactly.
taking advantage of the fact that they know people are uneducated and they
I
don't
know.
understand the difference. And so they're feeding it to people. And we just got to get ahead of it. So
Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, if you ever see us get annoyed when people talk about democracy, that's why. I yell at my computer all the time. It's a constitutional republic.
I know. It's like literally the one thing that it's like my pet peeve at this point. It's if you say the word democracy, you've lost my respect. So that's just interesting. Now, again, is there specific ties there that we can prove something happened? No, it's all speculation. But we know there were PA Georgia ties for the 2020 election. And now we have a Pennsylvania corrupt Democrat giving money directly to the man who screwed the Georgians and did nothing about their election issues. And I mean, what do you do with that other than watch it very closely for the next 6 months? You know,
Welcome to the swamp.
we'll update you on what else. And we'll give you an update after the webinar.
Yeah.
It's November 17th. We will be attending. So we'll
That's
just
this
wind things down. If you guys have any last thoughts, I'll leave it up to you. But the last couple of things. So between now, what do we do between now and May? We get educated, number one, first and foremost. We did just start another round of Constitution classes. Last Wednesday was our first one. It's not too late. You go to our website all the way at the bottom of auditthevotepa.com. You can still register. We recorded the first class. We can send you the recording if you want to get caught up. You have to get educated. That is first and foremost. And then secondly, we just have to get involved. So we have decided that we've learned so much, and it's like we don't want to make people drink from a fire hose by giving them everything that we've learned. We've got to break it down into pieces and things that you can use and implement in your local area. So we are going to start hosting monthly meetings. I think we're going to shoot for the first Monday of every month, starting in December. So December 6th will be our very first one. We don't have a location for sure nailed down yet. I'm in the process of doing that. I would like to say it would be in the same place our other Western PA meetings are, but I don't have everything nailed down. So stay tuned. However, here's the good news. There will be an in-person option as well as a webcast option. Yes. So we will definitely be webcasting it out, have a webinar that anybody across the state can have access to this. And we're going to start slowly just teaching everybody what they need to learn so that come the May 2022 primary, we will be ready to go, even more equipped. I feel like we went into this November election kind of knowing what to look for, but now we're just taking that to the next level. We even know what to look for on a whole nother level. We're looking at options of the voter rolls. How do we get those cleaned up? Because all roads of fraud in Pennsylvania seem to be leading to our voter rolls. Our voter rolls are a disaster. I started graphing. Let me share the screen. I'll do this last thing. And then if you guys have any other thoughts, you can go ahead with it. But I started
want to add one thing real quick. Sorry.
Sure, go for it.
Tony said we want to be more prepared and we know what to look for going into May. Now our focus needs to be getting more people looking for it. So it's filling those spots, filling those seats, filling those volunteer positions. We need people at the polls, outside the polls, in the polls, volunteering in their communities. Every opportunity that we have available to us, we need to fill. That's how we win.
Here's the other thing real quick too, is that even if you don't get one of those positions for whatever reason, you can still pay attention to your surroundings. So for instance, we did have somebody who said that they were voting. They just went in and voted. And the person came up behind them and said, hey, I left my mail. I can't find my mail-in ballot. What do I do? And the judge of elections handed them a ballot and said, here, go vote. Didn't ask any questions about the mail-in ballot. So if you're at the polls and you see something like that, don't leave. call, your sheriff, call your elections bureau. It's basically, we all kind of, I hate to say the see something, say something, that old saying, but it's true. If you see something funky, don't just walk out. Do something about it, because you never know how that's going to affect.
And in fairness, if you don't think you have an option to report it, send us an email and we'll figure out what to do with it, if it's legit or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure. So let's check out these voter rolls. I think so. Jamie had filled out some right to know requests. Her and I both live in Beaver County. Yeah. And the stuff she got back led me to start digging into and looking into my own little precinct. So someone had mentioned on the chat a while ago, are we still doing the precinct strategy? Absolutely.
Yes.
We're still doing the precinct strategy. If you don't know what that is, under the resources tab on our website, it is there. You can go read about it. Go to your local Republican committee, get on their website, find out when they meet, and go to their next meeting, and you can start learning about how to become a precinct committee man or committee woman and get involved. We are that is number one, probably top of the list of how we take this all back.
And in fairness, if you, it's in the May 2022 primary, right, is when we'll get some more information on it. You don't have to be appointed. You can actually win those seats by having people write your name in. So let us look into that a little more, and we'll maybe start to collect some information from all the counties on when those are going to be, because I don't think they're all the same. I sure wish they would be.
They're not, because mine are up in May.
Okay, so now I think
precincts are up.
In Beaver, I think we have to wait till 22 or 23. I'm not sure. So we'll talk about that more, but it only takes 10 votes to become a precinct person, and you just have to have 9 people really, because you can write yourself in. So we'll get you more information on that.
Yes.
Yeah. So Jamie hands me my data on just my little, I have 5 precincts in the area that I live, and come to find out that I had in my relatively conservative area a 90% turnout rate. There's about 7,000 voters where I live, and a 90% turnout rate. That sounds a little odd. Beaver County overall had what, Jamie? Was it 80?
Yes, just under 80. It was 79.36 or 63 something, just under 80%.
Just under 80%. Okay. But
and we have 129 precincts. So
my little area had a 90% turnout. So I started looking into it, and come to find out there's definitely some shady stuff going on with our voter rolls just in my own backyard. So I thought, well, let's take a look at this. So I graphed, here's what you're looking at. I went back and graphed from November of 2011. I'm going to have to move that down so you can see the bottom a little bit better. November of 2011. This is the registered vote. I'm sorry. Is that May? That's May of 2011. So this is 10 years of voter history, voter records. And you can see the spikes up and down. So that bottom number there, I don't know how well you guys can see this. Should I scroll back in or scroll out?
No, it's okay. Just
you can see it.
Yeah. You guys can see it. Okay,
if you use the mouse to kind of point where you're specifically talking to, we can follow you.
Oh, very good. So these numbers are the officially, this is how many registered voters there were on this election day. So all the way back in May, there were 101,200 registered voters in Beaver County overall. And then in November, the following November, there were 112,531. So somehow they added a little over 10,000 voters in a 6-month period of time. And as you can see, that trend continues. Now, here's what we know is legal, is that counties are supposed to purge their voter rolls. January of every odd year is when they're supposed to be purged. So you would expect then to see a dip in the odd number years. Like, let's move forward from November. I'm going to flip-flop this. I think November and May are supposed to be, I don't know. I got to look at that. Look at that again. November of 2012, we have 115,157 registered voters. You would expect then the following May, since it's that odd year, January of 2013, a purge, which is what you saw, goes down to 102,000. They purged about 13,000 voters. But what's kind of strange then is between May of 2013, which is an off year, right? Obama was elected in 2012, inaugurated in January of 2013. Nobody's really paying attention to those off year races for the most part. It was nothing special. And yet somehow they added 7,000 new voters back onto the voter rolls for November of 2013. And as if that's not strange enough, again, now we're going into an even numbered year in January. January of 2014, there's no purge required. However, Beaver County, whoop, down to 97,410 voters on the voter rolls in those 6 months. What the heck is that? Over a 10,000, almost 12,000 voters is that were purged from the voter rolls on a year that isn't necessarily, they have to. And then once again, the next 6 months, November 2014, we elected a governor. That was a governor race that year. So a little bit more than normal, but not like a presidential year. Somehow they added right back in the 13,000 voters that they took out. What the frick is going on? Now, again, like you would expect, the dip, we're in January of 2015, odd number year January, let's purge, woo, all the way down to 94,828. But once again, it's now 2015. We're voting in November of 2015. Nothing special, just a run-of-the-mill election that it's really hard to get people out for. 30%, if you get a 30% turnout on these off years, that's really good. Yeah, but somehow they're adding 12,000 voters again back onto the voter rolls. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, if ever I've seen it. Now, so what is this? November 2015, we go into May of 2016. This is what I would expect to see. No purge, a little bit of growth. 106,000 up to 109,000. That looks normal to me, right? In May of 2016 to November of 2016, big presidential election, right? Clinton, if you're like me back then, you're thinking Clinton and Trump. Dear God, save us all. Are these our choices? Really? That's how
that is what I was thinking. How do we choose?
Like, Jamie, back then you didn't even vote in 2016, did you?
No, I remember thinking this is why I don't vote. I don't feel that way anymore.
Nope.
Help us. These are our options. Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Just shoot us now. Really. That's how I was looking at it. But so you see an uptick, which I guess is normal. It's a presidential election. So between May and November, there's an uptick of about 4,000 new voters. All right. January 2017, giant purge down to 96,000. What is that? They almost took out 20,000 that time.
Yeah.
But again, it's 2017. It's not, we just presidential election. Nobody even knows there's an election typically in May. Somehow they added back in 12,000 more voters. What the heck is happening? Again, November to November.
And I said to Tony, every time the voter number goes up, that's 5, 10, 15, 20,000 new people, right?
Yep.
There are not that many people available in our county for this to be legitimate. So we checked the population trends and I said, well, are people leaving? Are people moving in, moving out? None of it lines up with what we're seeing here with the voter numbers and the registrations.
Nope, because Beaver County in this 10-year span lost 8,000 people in terms of population.
Yep.
So population is on a steady decline, but voter registration is on this crazy bump. Really?
And I'm sorry, there's not that many 17-year-olds that are turning 18.
No, there's not. There's no way. So you go right back to what? The 2018, November 2018, it's a governor race. Governor Wolf gets elected. Oh, oddly enough, that governor race had 1 million more votes than the average of every other governor race before that. Most governor races had between 3.5 and 4 million votes. That year, Governor Wolf and whoever he was running against, over 1 million more votes than the average. But okay, whatever. Another dip back down in an odd year that you would expect. But again, from May and November of 2019, nothing crazy going on. Ooh, let's just add in another 14,000 voters.
Now, Tony, theoretically, I mean, I'm not making any accusations here, but Kathy Bookvar giving access to our voter rolls, it's possible that there are at least 100 organizations who could be going in and manipulating the data. And by manipulating the data, I mean adding in people, creating duplicate registrations on purpose. There's so many different things that we have seen specifically in Beaver County that if you were to remove them all, they wouldn't even have this many people to play with because they're not real people.
Nope. So the bump down in May of 2020, which ended up being our June primary, which this is just odd, 97,000 voters. If you look at the even numbered primary races, they were all higher than that, I believe. Or no, maybe not, these bottom ones. But then, of course, for the presidential election, look at that. Biggest jump between June of 2020 primary and the November 2020 election. Biggest jump in the last 10-year history of Beaver County voter registrations, almost 20,000 people added to the voter rolls. And then you would expect then the purge, look at all these other big purges. Since they added that many, I would expect a much bigger purge because it's an odd numbered year, right? January 2021, they only purged 4,000 voters. And then purged a few more for the November election that we just had last week. So if this isn't voter roll manipulation, I don't know what is.
I know. And, you know, when we were having our conversation, we're talking about it and we're having these epiphanies and we're not even seeing it yet. It like hits so differently to see it on the graph, to see just the constant up and down right before every election, right after every election. There's no way that happens just naturally. No.
And I'll show them one more thing and then we can call it a night. I wanted to show them Allegheny because you would expect on a county like Allegheny and Philadelphia are, I guess, notorious for having election fraud. And yet it looks very different than Beaver does. And there's a lot more steady streams. There's peaks and valleys, but it's a lot steadier. And it's funny, there's one particular purge that we know what happened because the county was sued last May and forced to remove 60,000 people from the voter rolls. And it's reflected. You can see it. Hang on, I'll share my screen one last time. I started going back to my corporate day. I haven't worked in Excel graphs since I worked at the nuclear industry like 20 years ago. I was starting to like have a twitch last night. Stuff coming back to me, remembering how to like stick an axe.
Oh, corporate.
Yes, like I remember how to do this. Oh, I can get an axis over there. Oh my gosh, I remember this. I'm having crazy flashbacks. Okay, so this is Allegheny, but look at like the steady stream. Other than presidential years, May of 2011, 882,980 voters, pretty steady through to the 2012, obviously Obama's second term. Big spike. What is that? 30-some thousand extra votes, and the purge in the odd number year, which is normal. And it stays steady, which you would expect, right? And then look, another purge in the odd numbered year, which took it all the way down to 851,000. But then you kind of see this weird steady climb. And then a small purge on the odd numbered year, another steady climb, no purge in 2019, notice. So the odd numbered year from November 2018 to May 2019, they should have been purged. And instead they added more to 11,000 more. And then again, they added another 5,000. This, however, in May of 2020 or June 2020, this is where the lawsuit forced Allegheny County to remove 60,000 voters.
It was actually 69,000.
69,000 voters.
Yes.
Huh.
It's almost 70,000 voters that shouldn't have been on the voter rolls.
That was just dead voters.
70,000.
But somehow, here's the interesting part then. Somehow between that June primary in 2020 and the November 3rd steal, they still added over 40,000 people back to the voter rolls.
Yeah.
Now, you think 40,000 people register in less than a 6-month period of time? I don't think so. And
Not
this is
legitimately.
Also, what's that? Not legitimately. This is also strange then when there should have been a purge on the odd numbered year. It wasn't as big as some of the other ones that you saw.
Well, that was actually the even what? No, it was the odd. It would have been
the odd.
Yeah.
You would have expected a bigger purge, but
now,
I don't get this climb right here. Like, what is this?
So I see two trends. Leading up to 2016, there was a large increase on both Beaver and Allegheny.
Yep.
And I wasn't on the Trump bandwagon back then, but I know a lot of people were. So I would expect in 2016 and 2020 to see an increase in voters. Not extreme, but I would expect to see an increase.
But look at where their biggest voter spike was in the November election for 2019 is when they had the most registered voters in their history in over these 11 years. Oh, and by the way, Allegheny County losing population as well.
Yeah.
In this 11-year span. So losing population,
but still gaining voters.
Still voter well, all over the map. Gaining, losing. What the heck?
Yeah.
In mass numbers too. It's bizarre. So any final thoughts, girls? I hope this was helpful, you guys. We could talk honestly for hours. We eat, sleep, and breathe this thing.
This is what we do at 3:00 in the morning.
This is what we do. We cut our commercial this week. I did the voiceover, and it was one take, and they were like, how did you do so well with that? Like the first take. I'm like, it's not because I'm good at this. It's because I eat, sleep, and breathe this. If you had given me something to read that I don't know anything about, it probably would have taken me forever. But because this is all we do, no problem. So I hope we didn't overwhelm people. We gave you some pointers and tips, and you learned something every time we do stuff like this. We're looking forward to our monthly meetings and growing the movement and getting more people educated, involved, so we can take the state back. We have no doubt it's going to happen. It's just taking longer than we expected, but we're in it for the long haul, and we're never quitting.
Yep. The biggest thing I think is I just hope that from this people are... What did I miss? Were you talking?
There was a delay.
Oh, I don't hear anything.
I was done talking by the time you started, but it must have hit for you. I just said, I don't think we missed any questions. I've been watching them.
No, I don't think so. I've been watching on Facebook too. I think the biggest thing that I would say is just, we talk about doing research. Now it's time for the masses to start doing their research, especially because next year is such a huge election. And this I've been kind of trying to hammer into people's brains. Next year in 2022 in Pennsylvania, we have governor, lieutenant governor, Supreme Court, U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress. Then we have our House seats and some of the Senate seats in Pennsylvania. So when I tell you guys this is probably the most influential election in our history in Pennsylvania, I'm not kidding. This is huge. And so people really need to do their research on candidates for every single position, because every single position matters.
Yep. And we have found that, quite honestly, the non-presidential elections, the local elections where your school board is elected and your city council, are way more important as far as affecting your daily life than the big presidential election. We got to get more people becoming super voters and turning out every single time. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody's asking about the class. I'm going to put a link in the comments where you can register as soon as I get it up. Our Constitution class meets Wednesday nights at 8:30. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours. A video by Rick Green and David Barton, and then we have great discussion afterwards. There is, I don't know how long that's going to stay up there afterwards, but there is the form if you would like to. We ask for a $10 donation for all 6 weeks of the class. So it's Wednesday night, 8:30, one night a week, all via Zoom for 6 weeks. It is absolutely life-changing. It is what kind of kicked all of this off for Karen and I. Before we were really connected with Jamie, we took this Constitution class fall of 2020, and it blew us away how much we didn't know and started us on this path. And we had connected with her along the way. She's a Constitution coach as well. She just hosted her first round of classes. A couple weeks ago, you finished up, Jamie, I think, for the first time?
Yeah, I did my 6 weeks, and it ended about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so we're not sure the dynamics of how we're going to work those classes moving forward, but we're definitely in some way, shape, or form going to offer them at least every season, a fall, a winter, a spring, and a summer version. We're calling this one our holiday edition. It is step one. It will completely change your perspective and make you realize that, wow, there's hope. We just have generations of people that are uneducated. If we can get them educated, there is hope.
Yep.
And yes, you can rewatch the classes too.
If people want to get involved, there's multiple ways. So the first thing is you can go on our website, message us through our contact tab, and make sure, if you want to volunteer, whether it be to host a town hall, or if you want to, circulate our petition, which we are still taking signatures for our petition. Yes. So you can circulate our petition. Or if you want to help us on the ground canvassing, make sure you go to our website down there. At the bottom of the website is our contact tab. Contact us through this. We also, as Tony said before, are still collecting donations because a lot of the stuff that we're going to be doing, it's not cheap. So make sure you go there.
Yep. Karen and I swore, by the way, 2 things we were not willing to do when we started this is we're not knocking on doors and we're not asking for money. And guess what we're doing? Knocking on doors and asking for donations. Yay. But if you like our billboards and this commercial rolls out, this is why that's important, because money in the hands of good people, we can do a lot of good things with it. And so that's really the people that were battling this Brennan Center for Justice and all these other the other side has so much money behind them. And I don't think we need to have that much money. But if a ton of people just give a wee little bit, then we can do things regularly to combat the mainstream media. Like these commercials are going to air on Fox News and Fox Business. We think, unless they shut us down and tell us, no, we're not going to air it. When we first started looking into it, we were like, will they air it? We didn't even think they would air something like that.
Well, apparently when you're a paying customer, they don't care.
Good to know.
We'll find out soon enough.
Yes.
So thank you to everybody that supports us. Please continue to do it, because this is truly a labor of love. We feel called to do this. We enjoy it, and we have no plans to stop. But it does take money to make the world go round. So thank you very much for that.
Yep.
Awesome. Anything else, ladies, before we sign off?
I think that's enough.
Awesome. Oh, we got one more question. When you have the monthly meeting, what size hall do you want? That's a good question.
I don't think we know yet. I mean, probably at least 150 people, you think, right?
I would think at least maybe 200.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I'm going to end the broadcast. We had a blast. We will do this again. You guys have an awesome weekend. Okay.
Bye, guys.